Hello folks, it's David here, and I would just like to take a moment to ask you to go and check out our sponsors NordVPN. Internet security, very important. I'm sure it's something that you're concerned about as well. Me, I like to know that I'm the person in control of my data. I live on my phone, and the amount of stuff I do on it, from banking to documents to private messaging, I need to know is secure. We all know that there are bad people out there who will come in and try and get our details and try and spend our money for us. NordVPN prevents that, especially if you're using public Wi-Fi's or you're using Wi-Fi's away from your home. If you use NordVPN, you are safe and protected. It also allows you to take short holidays to places if that's ever required. It's a brilliant product. I use it every day and highly recommend it. And you can get a tremendous offer if you go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand. That's nordvpn.com/heart and hand, or use the code heart and hand to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan. You'll also get one additional month for free. Risk-free with Nord. It's 30-day money back guarantee. So all you need to do if you don't like it is just say nope, and you'll get your money back. So go and check them out. As I say, it's very important. You'll get peace of mind. Go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand. Hello everyone, welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar, I'm your host as ever, and joining me today to pick the bones out of yet another schizophrenic week supporting Rangers is none other than the stalwart boss of Four Lads Had a Dream. It's Stevie Clifford. Hello Stephen.
Hello David, hello everyone, nice to be here.
Yeah, and listen folks, this might become basically the post-match analysis that Stevie and I did in the car on the way home yesterday, because we use those as sort of therapy sessions at the moment, because Rangers are taking you up on a Thursday night and then bringing you right back down on a Sunday, and the contrast in the last 2 weeks has been absolutely stunning. It was the same again. Thursday night, as high as a kite, could not be happier. And on the way into the game yesterday, Stevie and I were speaking, both of us felt that Celtic would drop points at Easter Road. Both of us felt that Celtic were beginning to trend down a little. The results had kept up, but you can't always get away with that for so long that eventually that would come back and bite you. And I'll be honest, Stevie, I stand by that. I stand by what we said to each other before the match yesterday. I do think that the difference is where my faith in Rangers winning the league, and remember, I'm a fan, it's faith, has been shaken, is I don't think Celtic will win the next 10 matches. My concern is that I don't believe, given what I'm watching at the moment, that Rangers will either. And I feel that for Rangers to not win this league, they have to go some, and they're going some. That's my concern. I also think that it's very reminiscent to me of 97-98 that you've got two teams, one of whom, Celtic, can only win the league if the other underperform, and the other one, us, who are underperforming.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. First of all, I'm amazed that I'm actually on today, given the content that we discussed on the way home. It wasn't exactly joyful. We were pretty downbeat. And, you know, yesterday we were really excited. It was a nice day. The sun was shining. It was, you know, better weather compared to what we've been used to. The spirits were high. They then dropped points. And we're all really up for it. And at half time, it couldn't have been a better situation to be in. I didn't expect the next 45 minutes to unfold the way it did, which we'll get to. But, David, I tend to agree. We said at the start of this year, and we continue to say it, that the only team that could stop Rangers was Rangers. And that saying has come back to be proven to be true every single week, more or less, since the turn of the year. It hasn't been good enough, and I'm with you. It's not that there's a disbelief or that we're throwing in the towel or anything like that in terms of the title challenge. There's 10 games to go. There's still a quarter of the season left, and there's so many games and twists and turns to go. But it's trying to get past what we're watching and the same mistakes getting replayed from what we've seen in previous years. I think that's the way to put it, and that's why we're shaking, especially after yesterday. It was a chance to change the narrative. It was a chance to get everybody uplifted and going for it, and unfortunately we blew it.
Yeah, and that's the exact phrase. We blew it. We completely, borrowed a gun and shot ourselves in the feet repeatedly yesterday, and that's the thing that really kind of gets to you as a fan, I think, is that was a situation where Rangers were able to regain some momentum, some control, put doubt into the mind of a Celtic team that had been winning but does look to be tiring, and instead we failed. And again, it's all right looking at a match individually, which we will. We'll look at this today. Similar to Dundee United, it's a match we should have won. It's a match that, we made so many chances, didn't concede many chances. But of course, the ones we did ended up being goals. You can't keep saying that. You can't keep saying it. We can't keep looking at things in one individual context. There are a lot of things that are repeated, as you mentioned there, throughout certainly the second half of 2022 and throughout the season, incidentally. I think now we have to accept that it's this group of players rather than specifically anything a manager does, because we've had two managers and we've seen a lot of the same things. And they are two different managers. They've got different styles, different philosophies, and yet a lot of the results are the same. Yesterday, for me, was another example of not being able to see a game out. Rangers have taken a lead against Aberdeen, Ross County, and Motherwell, and yet only ended up with 3 points out of those matches, which is just completely unacceptable. Rangers have won 3 of their 8 league matches in 2022, drawn 4, lost 1. That's not league winning form. And you have to say that the performances were better than Parkhead, for example, or Aberdeen, which were two woeful displays, but the results aren't measuring up to what we need them to be. It really is that simple. Rangers, they don't lose a lot of games, as we know. 2 defeats in nearly 70 matches, but we draw a hell of a lot of them, and that's what's killing us. And it's a strange one, because to me, that if you're accusing the players of a loser mentality, then they don't lose very often. So it's not that. So what is it? Is it complacency? Is it poor game management? Is it thinking a job is done when they get to 1 or 2-0 when it isn't? I think all of those are factors.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's I don't even know if it's a complacency thing. People have asked this question, and if we had the answer, then it would, would hopefully solve all their issues. But for me, David, I think there's a real issue with it, how ruthless we are. And in terms of somebody asking, well, what do you mean by that? I would say that when we're on top in games, when we're really pounding teams and we don't kill them off, we don't go for the jugular and then take our foot off the gas. I think that's where I think that we have issues. And even when we need to get goals, and if you look back to Ross County, to Dundee United, to even yesterday, we can get goals. But once we get them and we maybe get ahead, or we're 2-1 or we're 3-2 up or whatever, we don't ever go and kill it off. And I think that's the real issues we have as a team at the moment. There isn't a ruthless drive in this team. And I think that causes so many issues, because we are vulnerable. And we're vulnerable not only to conceding goals, David, and teams score goals, right? I get that. What is happening at the moment, which is hugely alarming, David, is almost every single goal we're conceding seems to be coming from stuff we're doing. We're literally handing it over to teams, and that's really galling and difficult to take. Yesterday was a prime example of that. We couldn't be any more comfortable in a match. We couldn't have played any better. I sat at half-time and literally wrote on my match report that I feel that this is up there with the best we played under Giovanni van Bronckhorst. I could see tactically what he was trying to do. I could see the players buying into it, the overload on the right-hand side, all these wee words and things like that, that were all these wee buzzwords and things, David, that the cool kids like to use. I was seeing it all, and I was happy. I was seeing different things from corner kicks, and I was enjoying it. But when you factor in the level of mistakes for goals that we're doing, I'm talking about 5-yard passes, David, going straight to opposition and then breaking and 2 seconds later scoring goals. This is where we are as a team, and we need to. The reality of it is that cannot continue, because if it does, then this is only going to go one way. And we obviously dissected this a lot, and it is therapy. You're right, because I need it. By the time you get home, you know it's kind of out your system a wee bit. But one thing I did say to you yesterday, and I'll stand by this, is that this isn't title winning form, and they either shake this off pretty quickly and get on with it, or we all know what's going to happen. But the big thing, and we did say this, the big thing is that thank God they're still in it. It's only 3 points. We've still got 10 games left, so there is time to rectify this, but they have to get it out of their system now.
Yeah, the problem with that is that we've been saying a version of that now for 2 months, and it doesn't change. And I would agree if anyone wants to say, well, the performances were a lot better against Motherwell and Dundee United than they were against Aberdeen or Celtic, then that is true. Yep. And again, in terms of trending, and all the stats and stuff, it would appear that Rangers are going to head up the way. But 3 wins in 8, it just keeps coming back to that. 3 wins in 8, it's not good enough. It's the one consolation is exactly that. Given a 2-month spell like that at the business end of the season, you should be out of it. You really should. That should do you. And the fact is that because of Celtic's poor start, it hasn't. But it's still nowhere near good enough. Lots of things to unpack. Firstly, the positive. The first half was a tremendous display. Rangers were up for it. They were aggressive. They were hunting down Motherwell. Motherwell didn't have a sniff. In that first half, Rangers were all over them. Got 2 goals. Looked to be in really good position to come out. And as you say, in the second half, add to that. In the second half, intensity dropped. And that's fine if you're good at seeing a game out, but Rangers are not good at seeing games out. So why they feel they can do that, I don't know. And then I agree with you, incidentally. I think that, what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was trying to do in the first half was good. It was laudable, and it was thinking, right, how can I get more players who can help us attack on the part? And it did work in the first half. What I don't get is that there were players in that second half who were dead on their feet. I thought Scott Arfield, for one, who I thought looked tired Thursday, but was definitely tired yesterday. We make one sub with 10 minutes left and we're chasing a goal. That's not using your squad well, especially not with the amount of games we've got coming up. And secondly, why at 2-1 we didn't put Balogun on and put Lundstram into the midfield, I have no idea. We were without Ryan Jack yesterday. He didn't make squad. So, moving Lundstram, I get, and it worked for a while, but then it became clear it was going to be different. When Motherwell were going to come out a lot more, they had to. Then you kind of needed a proper defender in there. And again, the use or the lack of use of subs baffled me.
Yeah. On that point, first half, yeah, I think it did work really well, and I liked what he was trying to do. I liked how John Lundstram stepped forward, and we did everything about it was good, David. Right from the off, we went for them. Sakala had a shot that fizzed over the bar. Not across the face of the goal, and then Morelos hit the bar all within 90 seconds. So it was a good intent. We had Kamara's short corner routine, and then we had a shot by Tav that was tipped over wonderfully by Liam Kelly, all within 7 minutes. So it was the right attitude, it was the right intensity. We got 2 quick goals, which should settle any team down and open the floodgates at Ibrox. I'm not talking about necessarily being 6-0 or whatever, but we should be comfortably enough to be seeing that out. Then, as you said, once the dynamic changes on the second, we have to be proactive. We have to see, or he has to see on the sidelines what we're seeing. Because you mentioned Arfield. I thought Joe Rabel was dead on his feet yesterday. I thought that Lundstram was tiring. I thought that Ryan Kent was tiring. You consider the shift that Alfredo Morelos put in. Now, I know you don't take off your best striker, but if we're wanting to be proactive at times, There's plenty of fresh legs on the bench there that we could have brought on that could have affected the game, and also it changes the dynamic of the match more favourably towards us, because we're always on the front foot of that game, and Motherwell are trying to pick us off. If you're bringing guys on that are fresher legs and things like that, how many times did we see the ball go to Sakala on the right hand side, or the ball go in that movement from Arfield, and they didn't quite get there yesterday, particularly Arfield, because like you said, he was dead on his feet. That's where the criticism of the manager comes in, because first half wonderfully, everything worked well, and I don't quite understand how he can see so brilliantly tactically on Thursday night and make a magnificent change and change the whole game the way he did, but not be proactive or even reactive when we needed it, to changing that yesterday. And that's where it's difficult to argue against any criticism of him on that point.
Yeah, it is, because is there some governing bylaw about not making subs I don't know about? Because
Especially
Gerrard
when
was
you've got
exactly the same.
5.
Yeah, it baffles me. And then with the amount of games that we've got upcoming, to me, the inference is, well, I don't trust certain members of my squad. It really is that. I wasn't going to go to this yet. I was going to go to this later. But in terms of criticism, a lot of criticism, because again, that's another match where none of the guys we signed in January featured. Now, you and I talked about this yesterday, about criticism of Ross Wilson for this. And I've been critical of Ross Wilson's last 3 windows, in all honesty. I don't think they've been anywhere near good enough. To me, there's not a lot of point discussing it right now, because it's currently on the knife edge of, if we win the league and those guys do perform in these upcoming games, then great. I would count Zukowski after that. He was brought in as backup. That's fine, right? Fair enough. But if we win the league and these guys contribute, it worked. Okay, and brilliant. But such is life at a huge club, that those decisions, you either get them right and you're lauded, or you get them wrong and you pay the consequences. If we get to the end of the season and these guys have made zero input, we've wasted a window and nobody came in and benefited the first team, then I think, of course, he's going to be under a lot of pressure, and he absolutely deserves to be. At the moment, it's unproven. It's not looking good, but we don't know. You can say it's not going to work out from here, or you can say that it's going to be absolutely brilliant, and neither is correct and neither is incorrect at the moment. We don't know. But we will know in June. And for me, if it's a third window wasted, we've got to be kind of calling people to account, saying, why are we continually signing players that make virtually no impact on the first team, and we're relying still on guys who were put together under previous regimes?
Yeah, and I think that's entirely fair. I agree with you. I said that we did speak about this yesterday. It was quite in depth. There is a train of thought at the moment to quite a lot of heavy scattergun criticism, and Ross Wilson's coming under that. And it's difficult to defend again, because at the moment, when you're not getting any input from these guys that have come in January, then it's really difficult. What's more telling for me, David, and what's more worrying about this situation is that it doesn't really matter what you, me, or Jimmy, a couple of seats down us, and Ibrox think. It's what the manager thinks. If the manager's not using these guys that we got in January, and he can't use Ramsey, fine, we'll get to Ramsey in a wee second. But if he can't go and look at his bench yesterday and trust Diallo to come on at 60 minutes against Motherwell at home, then, or Sands to come on when we're playing a midfielder at centre-back where he can play by trade and has played most of his games in the MLS there, we've got real issues with that relationship between them two already. If he's inadvertently saying that these guys aren't good enough and we're at the end of February, then I think that's more problematic than whatever our opinion is. Because if Gio's already doubting the guys that we brought in, then and it goes back to what you said about not trusting them. If he's already there, then we're in trouble with that relationship already, in my opinion. And when it gets to the summer, we've got contract renewals, and that's a massive thing. Morelos, Kent, Aribo. And then you've got the other ones, the likes of, I don't mean to downplay this, but you've got Ryan Jack, Philip Hollander, etc., who are not top value. Our top value guys are the immediate priority. If we get to the summer and this is the same status quo with these guys as well, I'm sorry, but not only will questions be asked of Ross Wilson, the whole dynamic will begin to change from a few people questioning his role at the club to the majority of people questioning his role at the club. That's life at Rangers. I get it. It can be cutthroat. There was nobody criticising him the day he signed Aaron Ramsey. I still don't think Aaron Ramsey's been a poor signing. Well, he's got to prove his worth. I get that, and he's got to become available. I get that, and it was a gamble, but he's a world class player. Sometimes you have to take a gamble, so I get that, and he gets leeway there for me because I still think that every single one of us would have went out there and made that signing, or 95% of us would. So that's not one for me. But the ones, David, that are difficult for me to understand and comprehend is when he talks about Nathan Patterson's deal from Everton being months and months and months of negotiating, then he must have had months of knowing that he's got that ballpark figure in his head that he's going to bring in. So he must have known what was available from the club to go and get. Now, if there was absolutely nothing available, fine, understand that again. But we know that there was a small amount available at least. Decisions like not spending an extra $100,000 on John Souttar, but bringing in Sands, will be the one that he's going to be criticised for. And that's where, come June, if we don't win this league, there's going to be a lot of attention towards Ross Wilson and his position at the club.
Yeah, if you get things right, you get lionised. If you get things wrong, you get sacked. That's football, and that's Rangers. And like I say, I don't think there's a particularly impressive transfer strategy at Rangers. Certainly the last three windows and a bit before. And the proof of that pudding is that we continually rely on guys who were here before that. So, yeah, I think it's justified. I do. Now, again, I think, in terms of harping on about it just now, it's not going to change anything right now. But come the summer, that's when reviews happen, and we'll know. That's the thing. We will know. It will not be up for debate anymore. And I'm afraid that the argument of, well, we would all have signed him. I would have signed Diallo if he was offered. Don't get me wrong. What an exciting prospect. But it's not my job to get it right. I don't get the rewards for it. I don't get the adulation when it goes right. I don't get the money for it. It's part of the contract. It's, things go well, you become a hero. Things go badly, the opposite happens. But as I say, that's a topic that will be coming up very much, I think, in the summer. Back to the game itself. Now, Rangers concede far too many goals. And we'll come to that in a minute, Stevie. But Rangers don't score enough goals. And the problem is an old one that we had addressed last season that's kind of gone back, which is Alfie weighs in and nobody else does significantly. And Kent doesn't score enough goals. The midfield don't score enough goals. Aribo doesn't score enough goals. Good players, but our regular goal scorers are our striker and our right back. And the rest of them have got to chip in with more than they do. And I felt yesterday that you look at the amount of space Motherwell were leaving Glenn Kamara on the edge of the box. That's because they're confident he's not going to do anything with it. It's a long-term failing, and it is hurting as this. It's hurt us in the past. Last year we had other guys, Roof, Hadji, etc., that were all coming in with goals. Kent got more goals. Aribo weighed in with more goals. But this season we've reverted back to the over-reliance on a couple of players.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Kent's got 2 goals this season. 2 league goals, and that's nowhere near what we need. Kamar Roof's completely fallen off the radar for me, David, in terms of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Roof's capable, but he's also not looked on form to me in a good while as well, probably because he's not to run the team. So I'm not going to slate Roof or criticise him, but on your point of people weighing in, Hadji was vital, his goals last season. We harped on about it. A lot of people said that he didn't, he wasn't prominent in games, and we both said, and you famously coined that he's a moments player. But those big moments are the ones we're not getting now in terms of goals and things like that. And you're right, we're back to being over reliant. Fashion Sakala's got a good goal ratio, but he's not been starting enough for me. I hope that's changing now. I hope that yesterday with his starting goal, that he's going to find himself getting more game time, because I think he does have that real kind of edge to him. I know that sometimes he can be a bit wayward and a bit unpredictable, to say the least, but he's capable. He's more than capable, and I think that he's more ruthless, again, back to that word, than other people. Sometimes I feel that Joe Aribo, Glenn Kamara, Ryan Kent all want an extra touch, when I would like them to be a wee bit more driven in terms of, committing a man or going for it. But you're right, David, it's a really difficult one. It's one we haven't addressed, and it's one that if it doesn't start happening, then it becomes difficult for us, because that's where it goes back to team selection a wee bit as well, in terms of if you lose Jack and Lundstrom, who are both your kind of driving force of the middle, and Lundstrom's more than capable of taking a shot, and you're moving him back, it makes it even more difficult to defend that decision. Before we get on to the goals conceded and what Giovanni says, and I've got issues with kind of what he said yesterday as well, in terms of goals, you're absolutely bang on. If we're not getting it from Alfredo and Tab, and you're not getting it from the guys that were pitching in from the bench, you're going to get the problems we're getting now. And it's just, we are creating so much, and I get that, and I do think that's right. Yesterday we scored 2. That should be enough for Rangers in any game in Scotland, barring a freak occurrence. The problem is, 3 goals up at Ross County, goals Dundee United, Aberdeen, goals yesterday. This isn't a freak occurrence anymore, David, and that's the big issue.
Hey folks, it's David here again with more handy advice on how to trim your testicles. Yes, they're back. The Manscaped ads, which I know all of you love so much because you know how uncomfortable they make me. And if you want your balls to be more comfortable, and apparently they are when you remove Sherwood Forest from them, then you know what to do. Get a Manscaped kit. They're ideal for the sort of people who like to get involved in that sort of behaviour. I have one, but as I like my testicles to be set for winter, I have only ever used it on other places. And I have to say it works very well, because I've hit that age where hair grows everywhere except your head, and making my shoulders and back resemble less like a caveman, it's absolutely ideal. And trust me, that is a thick brush to drive through. It's effectively like trying to drive a car through a stone wall, and credit to Manscaped's expert trimmer, it does. So if you want to take advantage of our special offer, go to manscaped.com and use the special code RANGERS. That's manscaped.com and the special code RANGERS. Well, you will get 20% off your first order and lots of goodies as well. So go on, give the people a surprise. I'm not suggesting that you tidy it up and then, get your knob out and pretend to be a door at parties or anything like that. But if you want a new you for spring, bit of spring cleaning in the old downstairs parts, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, well, here we go. Right. This is one that you and I have been here before. We were here after the Hibs game, and we criticised Alan McGregor and wondered if this was maybe a season too far. And he rolled back with some excellent performances. And therefore, we were both kind of relieved, because I've mentioned before, I was talking about it last week, it seems almost sacrilegious to have a go at him. But it's becoming less and less heretical to do so. And I did notice yesterday that the people talking to me, my friends and family, people at the game that I chat to, online, on the Heart and Hand website, that the consensus, and it's a big consensus, it's not a split down the middle one, is that it's time to leave him out because he's not playing well enough. Now, the first goal, I think he can do better. I think he can... and I would expect a goalkeeper to get a touch on that and knock it out, and who knows, if a player's running in, fine, but I still expect with the guy behind him to deal with that. The second one is woeful. I mean, it's just, there's no way he can be beat at that near post. It's not a rocket of a shot either. It's just a toe poke. And I don't know what he's doing. And again, it's not a one-off. This is not one you can look at and say, well, he had a bad day. He's had several bad days. And there's a lot of goals that you think Alan McGregor in his pomp could deal with, or Alan McGregor last season could have dealt with. And again, because of his age, there's always a suspicion that when he has a downturn, that's it for him. But it's about the here and now for me. Never mind next season or whatever, but also never mind previous seasons. And you know, I had people coming on to defend it to be saying, "What, he's a legend? You've got a short memory." And it's no, I don't. He is a legend. That's unquestioned. He always will be. But right now, is he playing well enough to be in goal for Rangers? And I don't think he is. I don't think that he's anywhere near it. As I say, the 2 goals yesterday were poor. I don't think the defence is confident in him, and the defence has its own issues regardless. But while it's not singling him out, as you said, the defending for both of those goals yesterday was bloody awful. Tav and Goldson, that was embarrassing at that second one. I mean, it really was. The first one, Lundstrom's not a defender and he gets done by pace. But even so, I still expect the goalkeeper to do better at both of those. And I'm increasingly walking out of games thinking that today, that these were preventable goals that he didn't prevent. It's a tough one. And there are people who are just, you know, understandably loyal to him and say, well, look what he's done for us in the past. And that's great. But for me, you have to look at the present as well. And right now, his goalkeeping is not of the level of a Rangers goalkeeper. It's not one game. It's been a while now, and there's also been a previous spell in it in the season. We're going back into that thing we had just before Gerrard left, that every shot's a goal. You know, I think it was 9 and 9 then. It's 6 out of 9 recently. Now, yes, defending, absolutely. But the defence gets changed when personnel becomes available or when players play badly. Barisic was playing very badly and he's been dropped. I don't get why it doesn't work for a goalkeeper. If a goalkeeper's not playing well, then I don't understand why you don't give either McLaughlin or McCrory the chance. And as I say, for me, the second one was a real, oh my goodness, you know, is anything that gets on target now got a decent chance? Well, at the moment, it's got a 66% chance of going into the back of the net against us. We cannot keep doing this. We cannot make 59 chances in the last 2 games and score 3 and give up 4 chances and concede 3. That's unmanageable. That is just not something that any team can do. Faults at both ends, faults in the defence, but on the discussion about the goalkeeper, I think we do, as a support and as a management team, have to look past the fact of who it is and look at what he currently is. And right now, in my opinion, what he is not good enough to be in the Rangers first team.
Yeah, rather bluntly, David, you're bang on. Listen, Alan McGregor's been a tremendous servant for Rangers. He's produced some heroic moments. Last season, he was as good as player of the year. Yeah, as Absolutely. Good as player of the year as anyone. And I made a real case for him in terms of the quality of saves he was making. And I get that. However, when you go back and listen to the pod we did after the Hibs game, after Giovanni was presented, and we were at that with Adam, we said there and then that I thought that McGregor should have come out the team. And he did roar back. His shot percentage, everything went up massively. That's great. Since the turn of the year, David, Alan McGregor has been inadvertently either involved in costing or has cost Rangers 6 goals. 2 up at Ross County, 2 at Parkhead, and 2 yesterday. That's just bluntly looking at it. That's not really going into elsewhere, Dortmund and things like that. That's not looking at everything. There's moments in games, kicking wise, he's really bad. But the big thing for me, David, aside of the goals, is, and this is what, again, I don't understand, Alan McGregor is now glued to his line. Now, before, he would rarely come. This year, he's just not coming at all, because when he does come, he's making mistakes. We've seen it at Hearts, etc. I understand. that goalkeepers can be down on kind of form, etc. But we're now actively setting up with the likes of Aribo and Morelos guarding our 6-yard box because he won't come out. And that's not right in terms of what we're doing. It doesn't, to me, look like what you said, that they have any faith in him. Something happened yesterday, and many people maybe not see it or think it's a big deal. See, after that first goal yesterday, Connor Goldson turned and screamed at him, put his arms out wide, and more or less, the same as everybody, he more or less pointed at where that ball was and said, why are you not coming for that? Now, people will look at that and say it was fizzed across the box and that. In reality, it wasn't. That's a goalkeeper diving down on that. If anyone can point to me the last time Alan McGregor made a diving save, I'd be quite impressed to hear about it, because he seems to just be... He seems to have lost the ability to move his feet. That happened at Parkhead with their second goal. It happened yesterday with that second goal, where it just seemed to go through him because he couldn't move his feet quick enough. He actually moved his foot over the ball and it went through him. Like you said, it wasn't a difficult shot. And I'm not sitting here, David, I'm not sitting here as, pretending that I'm, Buffon or one of these great world goalkeepers or anything else. But the fact of the matter is, Alan McGregor is making mistakes that's hurting this team, and it's directly costing us goals. These aren't mistakes that goalkeepers make and you say, right, okay, that's your one in 3 months or 4 months. And it happens because everyone makes mistakes. This is regularly happening. Not only is it regularly happening, teams are now targeting what we are doing, in swinging corners, playing it on top of them all the time. And it's there's a fragility everywhere. Now, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst gave, as Martin put it yesterday quite rightly, a politician's answer. I wouldn't have expected him to come across and say, no, we are looking at it and understand, because it would have crushed him. It would crush confidence, and you don't do that in a dressing room, so I get it. But what worried me is it almost seemed like it was a complete surprise to him that the question had even been asked.
Yeah, I asked him that question. I asked him that question, and I thought that as well. He looked surprised at it. And
that's a big worry to me, David.
Yeah.
Because anybody watching Rangers recently, and as you said, this isn't just us, and ultra people saying you might be being ultra critical or that. This is 2 months worth of form, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. It's not. There's people actively in games. We sit in the gantry and hear what people are shouting. That first goal yesterday is a bog standard save. Even at worst, you're tipping it away or using your feet to slide it away. You have the awareness to know that there's nobody coming in. A touch on that takes it past the Motherwell goal scorer. So there's no danger really there. Goldson leaves it because he thinks it's an easy ball for the keeper. I'm convinced of that. And by his reaction, the same. Now, there has been mistakes in the lead up to that. John Lundstrom gives away the ball. Bassey doesn't make the 50-50. Lundstrom gets done for pace. Goldson leaves it. McGregor leaves it. So there's mistakes everywhere, but ultimately as a goalkeeper, you should be making decisions and stopping the ball. The second one's offside. I said that straight away to you guys yesterday, and Gio brought it up, and he's bang on. The bit before, people might say, well, that's weird because the shot wasn't in the build-up. I think there was a throw, it got touched back, it got put back to the boy. The boy's miles offside. The linesman or the assistant is looking right at that. Now, if they can call Alfredo being a ball here either side the way he was with his two, they've got to get that right. It then works its way across, and we make an absolute catalogue arse of it. Goldson and Tavernier, just indecisive, not strong enough, and then that shot should be stopped. So it's not just McGregor in terms of it's all him, but at Ross County, it was just McGregor. At Celtic Park, at Parkhead,
it was everybody.
Goals, it's everybody, but he's got to be doing better. Directly costing us maybe 4 goals. It's not on. It's a decision now, David, which I think that previously you could have said, well, it's maybe a bit of misform and things. I now think it's a decision which has to be made. And we're looking at the replacement in John McLaughlin. And John McLaughlin is not Alan McGregor standard this year. Last year. He's not Alan McGregor standard. Nobody will argue with that. But he's not worse than what Alan McGregor's doing at the moment. He comes for crosses. He's better with the ball at his feet. He's a good shot stopper. Is he capable of real world-class moments? We haven't really seen that yet because he's not needed to be. I've seen him make good saves for Rangers away to Hibs last year. Made a tremendous save, I think, from Nisbet. Touched it wide brilliantly in the 2-2 game. But the upside of keeping Alan McGregor in isn't as big as the upside of putting John McLaughlin in. And I agree with what you said. I think this is now a decision that is not only prominent, but it's vital to make. He has to be taken out of that team, not only for us, but for himself. I don't want Alan McGregor's legacy in his last year, because I do think it's a certainty that this will be his last year, to be that we had to remove him in another 4 or 5 games' time because he was becoming beyond even normal levels, and that's my big fear. Take him out at the moment, even if it's 2 or 3 games or whatever. Let him get back to where he thinks he can be and where we know he can be, and then we'll see where John McLaughlin is at that point. The upside, as I said, David, I'll go back to that, and I think that's prominent. The upside to keeping Alan McGregor in isn't as big as the upside to bringing John McLaughlin in, and I think that's where we are now. It does have to be made.
I agree with that. Now, you mentioned there the refereeing and the decisions yesterday. Now, there is a tendency that we have, understandably, and I think it's an honourable one, to go, aye, well, but, you know, we made terrible mistakes. But the fact of the matter is that even so, that these are huge game-changing decisions. In the first half, there's a tackle that I thought was a red card. There's a potential penalty incident. There are 2 marginal offside goals, and there's a clear offside goal, none of which go Rangers' way. And this is not unusual. This is, you know, the week before at Tannadice, 2 penalties and a red card not given. This is every week. Rangers don't get marginal calls. It really is that simple. Referees and linesmen don't give Rangers marginal calls. Whereas you only need to look across the city to see a team who do get marginal calls. The Jota handball last week against Dundee, for example, the Kyogo goal against Hearts. That's a fundamental difference, and it's costing us. And again, yesterday, 3 minutes injury time. Whereas you and I watched the end of that Celtic game, the ref comes up with 6 minutes. Okay, there was a head knock, but then finds another 2 in the 6 minutes. A quarter of he adds a quarter of that on again, which by his logic means that halves should have 10 minutes added on to them at the end. And it's very difficult to escape the conclusion that at best, it's a subconscious thing, and at worst, and in the case of Clancy, I don't like to say that referees are. I've always been in they're bad, they're not dodgy. He really tests my theory on that one.
Yeah, and I'll be careful about what I say. The injury time one, David, 6 minutes added on at Ross County, play 7.5, they score kind of thing. Yesterday was atrocious, like letting them take corners, letting them, corners getting cleared, letting them continue, letting shots go in. It was verging on Clancy himself trying to take shots at that point. This isn't just, a paranoid rambling thing. Dundee United was horrendous levels of officiating, not close calls, talking about easy decisions to make. The pullback on Sakala, for example, the red card of Mulgrew. Yesterday, there was a pretty blatant red card. Now, he catches Connor Goldson high, studs shown, dangerous play. Goldson takes a really bad one, apparently very bruised and stud marks, etc., on his hip. That's not a yellow card. So fine, right? Okay, he got a yellow, fine. Rangers then had 2 penalty claims, 2 handball claims that we're not even getting the break from. And then there's the marginal. And you're talking about, David, that Alfredo Morelos second one is ball hair, right? I don't, excuse the phrase, but there's no easier way to say it. It's inches either way. But they can spot that, David, but they can't spot somebody getting hauled back like last week. And you're not, and this then goes back to VAR and stuff like that. This isn't a case of Rangers saying, VAR is, and you see some of the decisions, the St Mirren sending off a couple of weeks ago and stuff. The standard has went way down. This is before you even talk about Pataudry, Barisic getting elbowed in the face, play on, then getting told to go off and allowing Aberdeen to take free kicks against 9 men and everything else. You know, Ryan Kent getting sent off for nods. This is weeks and weeks of Rangers being either side of poor and bad decisions. Every single game since the return of Rangers from the winter break, there's been a big call in every single one, and we're not getting them. Penalty even, you know, you look at the one where Kent was barged in the back at home to Hearts. Now, we won 5-0, and that goes, so it goes be slightly under the radar and things like that. The Hibs game when Kent was barged, like stonewall penalties, David, we're not getting. You go up, and then we went to Annan, and in the cup game, Itten gets wiped out as he's about to shoot. You know, and because we win that game, people don't highlight it. This is big decisions every single game that we're not getting. It's difficult to fathom why, without, you know, coming to the old tinted, sort of blue tinted kind of angle that we're getting. You don't like to use the word cheated, but there's things happening that I don't understand. And as a practicing referee, a qualified referee, to a very low amateur standard, granted, I don't understand how they're seeing these things and not giving them. They look fairly straightforward. And even if you are missing them or you're blocked, how are the assistants missing? That one yesterday from Motherwell's second goal, to go from that to then go from Alfredo spotting that from a ball here of being offside infuriates me. I'm sorry, it really does. And that is why we're not getting the breaks at the moment. And you know, if they say that it evens up, I can't wait for the next 10 games because we are due so much. Yeah. And the level of refereeing, it's not an excuse. It doesn't excuse what we're doing, but both can coexist. We're not getting the breaks, we're not getting the decisions, and we're certainly not helping ourselves. It's not an excuse to highlight both. Both are very prevalent and coexisting, in my opinion, of what is going on with Rangers at the moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I think that, as I say, there is a tendency among us to just go, well, we can't talk about the refs because we made mistakes. Yeah, we can. Right, we can, because even so, Rangers should have won that game, should have won at Dundee United. And these are huge. You know, these are game-changing decisions. All of that said, we take on St Johnstone on Wednesday. It's usually a tough place for us to go. St Johnstone are not a good team. They've had a horrible season. There is zero excuse. My personal opinion, as if Rangers don't take 6 out of 6 in the next 2 games, my beginning to lose faith would gather an awful lot of steam.
And yeah, I completely agree with you. David, the disappointment of yesterday now, I'm at the point again where, right, it's gone, we can't do anything about it, let's kick on and get 6 points. It's also at the point where we need to gather momentum. I feel like if we can get some momentum behind us in the league and things, we'll start going. And possibly the argument of, you know, we could hit form at the right time. I'm the exact same as you. However, in terms of, I don't think we've got any, certainly not got a lot of manoeuvring or you know, points to give away anymore. I think that we have to now go on a run. I'm not saying we should win 10 games, but Walter, in his last year, when we won the 3rd title, we got beat at home to Dundee United 3-2, and I think we went 5 or maybe 6 points behind David, 1 or 2, but we all said we needed to win the remaining 9 games. Now, we actually won 8. We drew with them at home 0-0, and they celebrated like they won the league, if you remember rightly. They then went up to Inverness and got beat. Anything can happen in the running, but one thing for sure is we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, and that starts Wednesday. Like you said, St Johnstone's a tough place. They'll be scrapping, but they're not a good team. Aberdeen coming to Ibrox on Saturday. We know what they're like. They're not a good team either. We need to start getting ourselves together. Positively, I'm going to say to you right now, let's get these points. Let's start going on a run. We can't do anything about yesterday. It's gone. So let's start. Take the positives of the first half, etc. Try and tighten up. Maybe make a few changes, which I think we should be doing, and then let's start to kick on. Nothing's lost. It's 3 points. We've got to play them twice. There's a hell of a lot of twists and turns and things to go, but we have to get 6 points. That's a must, and then we'll see where we are at the end of the week.
a massive week, because we can't keep doing this. We can't keep saying it's only 3 points, because it's not going to be only 3 points if this keeps up. The ship looks as though it's sinking. It's either going to be that we fix the hole, or that we have to accept defeat and grab the lifeboats. So time is running out, and this week I think will be absolutely pivotal one way or the other. Right, folks, thank you very, very much for listening to Stevie and I. Stevie, you can always get over at Four Lads Had a Dream. Just search for Four Lads Had a Dream in Google or wherever, and up it will pop. Stevie, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure, David. Thanks for having us on. I'm sorry that we can't be a bit more upbeat in things, but what I would say is never been a better time for Rangers to hit form. Hopefully we're going to be about to see that, and I know that's blind faith. I'm a bit like you. This is either going to go one way or the other for me. I don't think we'll continue to be neck and neck. I think it's either going to go one way or the other. Let's hope it goes the right way for us, and let's kick on and hopefully roar this team on to a good run of form, which is very much needed. But a pleasure, David. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure to have you, mate. Right, thanks for listening, folks. Adam will be back with Heart and Hand Extra later this week. If you want full coverage of the upcoming game, starting with the preview tomorrow, as well as loads of other Rangers things, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again next Monday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. How's a free case of beer sound? After, let's face it, longest January in record, and off the back of some pretty testing times, I reckon it sounds good. Let's face it, we all deserve a party, and, well, a case of free beer will help that get going. And you can get a case of free beer from our pals at Beer52 by going to www.beer52.com/heart. and covering the postage, which is just $5.95. It's the biggest beer club in the world. Each month they send members a case of beer from different parts of the world, and this month it's an absolute belter. It's the Great European Road Trip case, and who knows more about great European road trips than the Gers? We're just coming back from one right now. You can have a crisp Pilsner from Norway's Lervig Brewery and a monster 7.5% double IPA from Sweden's Duges Brewery. On the dark side of beers this month, there's a smooth coffee stout from Copenhagen's Tuel, and there's also beer from Croatia, Poland, Germany, Serbia and Austria. If dark beer's not your thing, you can choose the light only case, and as always with Beer 52 you get the Ferment magazine, some snacks to soak it up, and even if you don't like it after that, you can just cancel at any time. So go to www.beer52.com/heart to claim your free case now. That's beer52.com/heart.